I appreciate this opportunity to speak, and it's a 15-minute section, right? And we're asked, what do you want to talk about? So unfortunately, I asked marketing what they wanted. They gave me about 20 slides. And so I won't go through 20 slides, but you'll see there's at least a little bit of marketing in there. But let me get to the meat of it. So I'm Captain Obvious, which is mobile's important. Mobile commerce is here. It's obvious, right? Everybody knows it. Let me give you some data from PayPal. So in this interesting thing of this is, and again, this is a marketing piece, is the numbers. It's the sheer numbers. So the amount of data we collect from these numbers is global, right? So we have roughly 188 million consumers. A million here, a million there. What's that mean? If you look at the size, number of accounts that PayPal has, we're larger than Discover and American Express combined. We have more accounts than those two card companies, and all of our customers are online, right? So that gives you some context of how big PayPal is, how many consumers we have. On the merchant side, we have 14.5 million merchants worldwide. Magento represents the largest merchant base beyond eBay, right? And so that's why we're a proud partner with Magento. We've been with Magento for a lot of years because we see the opportunity Magento brings, that it's an open system. You can solve any problem you want, right? If you don't like how it works, you can change it. And we saw it take off from the very beginning. PayPal actually invested into Magento when Magento was looking to expand and come to the US. PayPal got 50% ownership back then, and we've been with them ever since because we see the value like you see the value. On the other side of the equation is how many transactions is that? So these numbers, 1.4 billion, 86 billion, 1.4 billion transactions, that was just for last quarter. That's not the whole year. That's worldwide. $86 billion has gone through us in that quarter. The interesting thing is highlighted, and that's mobile. Mobile was 24 billion of that 86 billion. That's 28% of everything that PayPal sees comes through a mobile device. So there's your data, right? It's coming. Year over year growth, 56%. By next year, it'll more than likely we'll see half of our volume at PayPal worldwide be mobile, right? So it's here, it's real, everybody knows it. You've got your phones, you use it. And so what can be done about it, right? So what are the problems with mobile? And the problem is mobile is hot, obviously, but conversion is terrible, right? So 1/3 of people coming to your site are likely mobile users if you believe the PayPal data. 1/3 of them are using a mobile device, but conversion rate for mobile is 1/3 of what it is for a normal desktop. That's astounding numbers. There's an opportunity there. Merchants spend a lot of money driving eyeballs to their site, getting that big a funnel as you can, getting people to come to the site. Your job is to convert them. Mobile is a huge opportunity. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the problems with mobile and some of the things you can do. So if you look at it, let's say a merchant, for sake of argument, does $100,000 in volume in whatever period. And I picked 100,000 because it's easy for math. Let's say 25% of that's mobile. Well, that means they did 75,000 from normal desktop, and they did 25,000 from mobile, but there was another $50,000 there. If you could convert mobile at the same rate as you could desktop, there's $50,000 there for you for the taking. I'm not going to tell you you can get those same numbers, but you can do a lot better than 1%. So what is it? Right? So what's the problem? What's the disconnect? And the disconnect is, and I talk to so many different developers and system integrators, and they say, oh, I've got mobile because I have responsive design. And that's one small piece of the equation. It's table stakes. The problem is it isn't helping your conversion enough. So what kind of things can you do for conversion? So I think the biggest misconception is people don't understand what the mobile user is doing. Mobile users are buyers. They're not shoppers. They're not browsers. At the PayPal side, we see across 14 million merchants, we see what's in the shopping cart. We see mobile users have very few items in the shopping cart. They get in, they get out, They just want to get in and buy. It's not a good device for just browsing. A lot of people do it, but the conversion rate tells us, and the data that we see tells us, that's not what they're doing. Most people know what they want. They get onto the site, they find it, they want to buy that one item and get out. We're in the e-commerce world, we're all about upsell, cross-sell, whatever else we can do. Oh, you found that item, you might like this item. It doesn't work for mobile users. I'm not saying that 100% of the time, but look at that thing. Look at your conversion. Do A/B testing, right? Leave it like it is. Do all your cross-sell, upsell, but then take some percentage of them, run through and don't do that, and see if your conversion changes. And do it only for mobile devices. Detect that it's a mobile device and change the behavior and see if it changes your conversion. We all know typing on a phone is a nightmare, right? It's not conducive. They do it. Text messaging is forgiving, right? Because you have autocorrect, and people understand mistakes. In the e-commerce world, when you're checking out, putting an address in, all those things, it has to be right? And so mobile users, more times than not, will get into it, have it in the cart. They won't continue to buy because they just don't want to take the time to fill out that information. They'll say, I'll wait until I'm back at my office or back on a regular computer, and then I'll finish it. And of course, you lose a big percentage of those. They're distracted. They never come back. So let's talk about the checkout, because that's really where we're losing the mobile consumer. So make it easy as possible for them. If you're doing credit card entry, and everybody is, right? Make it simple. Do not ask them to say what kind of card it is. Is it a Visa? Is it a MasterCard? Who cares? You know that when they type in the number. The only thing you should do is you should list all the cards you take so they can see it, but don't make them pick which it is. You know that when you type it in. It's just one more step that's unnecessary. And I can't tell you how many sites I see when you ask for the expiration date, they put January, February, March, April. Look on your card. It's a 2-digit month, 2-digit year. That's what you want to mimic. I'm terrible at calendars, apparently, because every time I pull out my card, the 8th month, I have to January, February, March. Okay, yes, it's whatever it is, right? Don't make it any harder for them than you have to, right? Same thing with the CVV. It's a simple code on the back. Collect that. There's a place, you get a lot of times where people's credit card, and you say, is the shipping address the same as the billing address, right? Great. Don't make them re-enter it. Make it a checkbox, but don't display it. If they say yes, it's the same, don't make them scroll through and see that you've made it the same. If it's different, what do you really need from them for the billing address? The zip code is your biggest benefit. The zip code being passed in with the credit card allows the credit card company to do an AVS check. Does that match what's on the card? Do you need the address? Do you need the street address? Do you need the city name? Do you need all of that for a billing? No, probably you don't. Again, do A/B testing and see if it makes a difference. But I would say try just collecting the zip code, because that's what you need to do the risk to find out if it's really a match. It's not the rest of it, because you're not passing the street address, because it's fraught with problems for the credit card companies to kind of parse out and make sense of. So just collect the zip code and try that. Again, do A/B testing. And the last thing is, and I'm going to come back to PayPal, is take mobile-friendly solutions, mobile-friendly payment options. And all of them are intended to keep the consumer from having to re-enter in their address, their credit card number. It saves them from that. Think about Uber. Uber, well, although it's not here in Austin anymore, the Uber experience. You set it up once, your payment, and you don't think about it, right? You don't have to enter it in again. You don't have to do anything. The payment becomes background, right? Don't make it in the front if you can avoid it, right? So let's talk about all the different payment options out there. So you have your credit cards. Obviously, that's what you have to support, right? And PayPal, we see roughly when PayPal's offered, we get roughly 20% of the consumers come through PayPal, right? So you still have 75, 80% that are using credit card. So take the time, make that as simple as you can. There's limits to how simple you can make it, but it's worth every effort. Then after that, there's lots of different options. MasterPass and Visa both have a checkout with the sole purpose of, again, they collect the information once from that consumer. The consumer has an account, and they don't have to type in the information on your merchant site. Right now, they don't have much of a footprint, but they're out there. You have PayPal. Obviously, the integration with PayPal is very good because we've spent a lot of time with PayPal. It's clean. You talk about the one-touch experience of Uber. With Express Checkout, you have the same thing. And we have actually when we acquired Braintree a couple of years ago, Bill Reddy was running Braintree. He now runs all of PayPal's merchants, right? So everything PayPal offers, Payment Standard, Payments Advanced, Payments Pro, Payflow, and all these great names that the only thing common is they say PayPal in front of them. He runs that now. And what he brought is to say, look at what we did with Uber. We made this kind of seamless experience. Let's do that with PayPal's Express Checkout. What does that mean now today? And roughly of that 188 million, roughly 20 million of them have enabled it. You can enable it for your computer or your mobile phone to say, keep me logged in. In which case, you don't have to enter a password. Unless you change shipping address. If you change anything in the account, we're going to make you re-sign in. But right now, it's set for 6 months. You stay logged in. Any site you go to, once you've enabled it, any site you go to that takes PayPal, you don't have to log in. You literally get to a screen that says, how do you want to pay for this? What funding source do you want to use? You want to use your credit card, your bank account? What do you want to use? You click that, and you're done. So it's as close to Uber as we've been able to do. Again, 20+ million people have enabled it, and we see big volume from those people because it's like Amazon, right? It's on Amazon, it's kind of the one-click checkout. This is what PayPal has, but it applies to every single merchant. Bitcoin is interesting. We see next to zero adoption because, let's face it, it's very volatile, right? From the point that you take a Bitcoin and what's the value of it at the point you actually convert it into a currency, there's so much variability. So we see very few places at all. But we've done it. You have Android Pay, you have Apple Pay, right? These are more, right now, they're in-app experiences. Apple Pay and Android Pay. So those are supported in-app. Apple Pay is coming to the web. The truth of the data behind Apple Pay today is Apple Pay gets, of the people who have a device today that's capable of doing Apple Pay, they're getting about 20% try it, which is actually really good. Of those 20%, less than half of them come back and never do it again. So you have a very small number of people who do it. Now, when it comes to the web, you're further limited to you have to be on Safari. Right? Safari has roughly 5% of the browser market. So if you take Safari being 5% and the number of consumers who are on that device that have an Apple account and have it set up, it's an incredibly tiny footprint. But it's a great big marketing name. So you'll see Apple Pay, I'm sure, as we get into the holidays, advertising. But the truth of the matter is, today, they don't have hardly any footprint. Venmo. PayPal owns Venmo, but please don't tell anybody who has Venmo that PayPal owns them because they think PayPal's my father's stuff. It's eBay, right? So Venmo is very big, right? We did roughly $20 billion in Venmo transactions. And it's on campuses. It's a younger generation. It's mainly right now person to person, but we're bringing it so that those same people can pay online using their Venmo account. And not have to put in a credit card, not have to put in a shipping address, billing address, all that stuff. So those are some of the online things you should look at. I recommend you try some of them. The thing to watch out for is more options isn't always better. At some point, you get too many options, and the consumer gets confused and basically says,
if you give them a chance to think, a lot of times they won't complete the sale. And the more options you put out there, it doesn't always bring in more people. But try it, right? Try some of them and see what works, right? And do A/B testing. That's your friend, right? The whole A/B, does this change make an impact? Because remember, roughly 50% of the current, whatever your merchant's doing today, you could almost, if you got the same rate as a normal browser, you could increase their revenue by 50%. Now, who doesn't want that? All right, next to the last slide. All of those things are in Braintree.
Braintree, you can do credit card, right? With Braintree, if your merchant's using any kind of a solution, including PayPal, that redirects, you lose people. With Braintree, the payment's right on the site in Magento. In Magento 1X, we have a system integrator called Gene Commerce, who built an extension that's out there. We love. They've done a phenomenal job, and we've been behind them 100%. So if you have a 1X customer and you're interested in Braintree, go look at that extension. Of these things that are up here, MasterPass we announced because we have an agreement with MasterCard. Visa Checkout we've announced that we're going to add that to Braintree as well. Bitcoin's already there. Apple Pay is already there. Android Pay is there. Again, those are only for native apps today. And Venmo we're already doing testing with. So from a single integration, and it's really an extension you download, you can turn on any of these things without having to add any more code to your system. Right? That's really the beauty of Braintree and why we bought them, is that they're very extensible. They can add new payment types. So mobile, it's here, it's real, right? Go test your stuff, go make the changes, go do the tweaks, because those are the valuable dollars. They're there for the grabbing, right? You have people who have stuff in their shopping cart, they're not completing it. Make some changes, make some tweaks, and see if you can increase your percentage, because every one of those is to the bottom line.